right, Trailblazers, today's different. I'm not going to be leading the conversation today. You are. Yep, you heard me. I'm handing the reins over to you, and trust me, you're ready for it. We're diving into something called a Socratic discussion. But this time, you're going to run it yourselves. I'll be here, but more as an observer, not a leader. My job is to guide you through learning how to guide yourselves. How cool is that? So, what exactly is a Socratic discussion? Well, let's rewind for a second. Usually, when we think of discussions in class, it's a bit like a ping pong match. I serve up the question, you volley back an answer, and we go back and forth. But in a Socratic discussion, it's less like a ping pong and more like a spider web of ideas, with threads connecting all of you to each other. There's no one answer, no right or wrong. It's about pushing, probing, and questioning our assumptions together. But here's the secret sauce of running your own Socratic discussion. It's not about answers. It's about questions. Questions that are currency in this discussion. And the more thought-provoking, the better. Your job today is to generate these questions and then follow where they lead. Let's break it down into 3 steps so you can visualize this. Number 1. Ask open-ended questions. I know you're used to questions that have concrete answers, like, when was the Constitution signed? But Socratic questions are different. Here, we're asking the kinds of questions that don't end with a date or a yes-no answer. Instead, we're looking at things like, why do people rebel against authority? What defines justice in a society? These kinds of questions spark conversation, not end it. So, when you're running the discussion, start with something big, something that doesn't have a neat conclusion. Let your curiosity guide you. Number 2, listen to each other. I don't mean just wait for your turn to speak either. I mean active listening. Listen to understand, not to respond. When someone in the circle offers an idea, don't immediately think about how you're going to answer it. Instead, ask yourself, how does this connect to what I'm thinking? The best discussions are ones where each thought builds on the last. Think of it like a group sculpture. You're all contributing a piece to something bigger. Number 3, stay open to new ideas. Here's where it gets real. Sometimes you might come into a discussion with a strong opinion, thinking you've got it all figured out. But the beauty of Socratic dialogue is that it invites you to be flexible. Your ideas might evolve as you hear from others, and that's a good thing. It's not about winning the discussion, it's about seeing how far you can stretch your understanding. Now, here's the kicker. I want you to think of this as a team effort. Yes, each of you will have your own thoughts and opinions, but Socratic discussion is a shared experience. You're not trying to outsmart each other or to get to the correct answer, but before anyone else, you're all chasing the same goal, deeper understanding. In fact, one of the marks of a great discussion is that, at the end, everyone walks away with more questions than they started with. That's right, more questions. That's how you know you've dug deep enough. So, what's this all for? Why learn how to do this? Great question. The Socratic method isn't just about discussing literature or history. It's about life. It's about learning how to think critically, how to communicate effectively, and how to work together to solve problems. You won't always have an authority figure giving you answers in life. Sometimes you'll need to figure things out through dialogue, just like this. I'll give you an example. Let's say we're talking about climate change. A typical classroom discussion might have you memorize facts. The Earth's average temperature has risen by X degrees over Y years. But in a Socratic discussion, we'd ask, what responsibility do we have to future generations when it comes to the environment? Or, can we balance economic growth with sustainability? These are questions that push you to think beyond the facts, into the realm of ethics, philosophy, and personal responsibility. Okay, now let's talk mechanics. Here's how we're going to structure today's lesson. Number 1, one person kicks it off with a question. 2, after that, it's up to all of you to keep the conversation flowing. You might ask a follow-up, challenge an idea, or build on someone's point. Number 3, we'll use respectful language, and no one dominates the conversation. Everyone's voice is important, and every idea has value. Number 4, if you feel like the conversation is getting stuck or repetitive, that's your cue to toss in a new question. Think of yourself as co-pilots of this intellectual journey. You're all steering the discussion, not me. One final tip. When you're running your own Socratic discussion, remember that silence isn't your enemy. Sometimes the best moments come when people take a breath and think about things before they speak. You don't have to fill every pause. Let the ideas simmer for a second before jumping in. Now, what do you get out of all this? It's not just about knowing more. It's about knowing how to know more. It's about becoming independent thinkers, confident in your ability to explore ideas with other people. It's about being open to change, willing to collaborate, and able to challenge your own assumptions. And that, my friends, is a superpower that will take you far beyond this classroom. All right, who's ready to get started? Let's kick off our Socratic discussion. Who wants to throw the first question into the circle?